The agenda is to consider the references to committees proposed by the Bureau for ratification by the Assembly in accordance with Rule 26(3) of the rules. The references are set out in document AS/info 202200. Are there any objections to these references? As I do not see any, the references are approved. Before we examine the draft agenda, the Assembly needs to consider a request for a debate under urgent procedure. The Bureau has received a request for a debate under urgent procedure on consequences of the Russian Federation's aggression against Ukraine on behalf of the 5 political groups. At its meeting of the 11th of March, the Bureau took note of the Minister's Deputy's decision of 10 March 2022 on the consequences of the aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine and of the request of the Committee of Ministers under Statutory Resolution 5130 to consult the Parliamentary Assembly on potential use of Article 8 for the Statute of the Council of Europe. The Bureau therefore decided to recommend to the Assembly to hold a debate on consequences on the Russian Federation's aggression against Ukraine and to consider and adopt within this debate the Assembly's opinion requested by the Committee of Ministers under Statutory Resolution 5130. We will now consider the request for a debate under urgent procedure. The Assembly needs to consider the request submitted by the 5 political groups for a debate under urgent procedure on consequences of the Russian Federation's aggression against Ukraine. At its meeting on Friday, the Bureau approved this request and therefore recommends to the Assembly that the matter be debated during this extraordinary session on Tuesday morning, with the debate continuing in the afternoon. Does the Assembly agree to this recommendation? I do not see any objection. Therefore, the Bureau's recommendation is accepted and the request for urgent procedure is therefore approved. I propose that the topic of the debate we just have agreed be referred to the Committee on Political Affairs and Democracy for report. Is this agreed? Don't see any objection. The reference is agreed to. The next item of business is the adoption of the agenda for the 2022 extraordinary session, which you find in document 15462, provisional 2. The draft agenda submitted for the agenda's approval was drawn up by the Bureau on the 25th of February and updated on the 11th of March. The Assembly has agreed to hold a debate under urgent procedure tomorrow, and the deadline of amendments will be 8 p.m. this evening. The deadline for sub-amendments will be Tuesday morning, 10:30. The Bureau proposes that movers of amendments limit their presentation to 30 seconds. Does the Assembly agree with the agenda as we have discussed? It is agreed to. If you allow me to inform you that we have a change to the agenda, as President Zelensky, who I invited to participate in this session, has informed me that due to very urgent, unforeseen circumstances, he will not be able to address our Assembly now, and instead he has asked the Prime Minister of Ukraine to speak on his behalf. I propose that we take note of this message, and we have full understanding that the President of Ukraine is now under such time constraints that he could not make it at this moment, and we are eager to go to listen to the speech of the Prime Minister of Ukraine, Mr. Denis Shmyhal, later this morning. Then, Madam Secretary General of the Assembly, do you have any additional comments on the organization of the debates today? Is the Prime Minister of Ukraine now available? Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, now it's my honor to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Denis Shmyhal, the Prime Minister of Ukraine. Mr. Prime Minister, we are very happy and honored that you could join us virtually today. We can just imagine that your time constraints, so I will not take long. But I would like to express, on behalf of this Assembly, my heartfelt solidarity to you, your country, and your citizens. This morning, at the opening of this extraordinary session, we observed a minute of silence in memory of the victims of this unjustifiable war, which should never have happened and which should now stop immediately. The moments you and your citizens are living through are devastating due to the brutal military aggression of our member state Russia against Ukraine. For this blatant violation of the Statute of the Council of Europe, Russia has been suspended from its right of representation in the Council of Europe. Our extraordinary session will further discuss the consequences of the aggression by the Russian Federation against Ukraine and formulate, as we just decided, a statutory opinion at the request of the Committee of Ministers. Mr. Prime Minister, may I please give you the floor? As you may understand, getting connection at this moment with our beleaguered member state is not that easy, so I ask you for some minutes to wait. Dear colleagues, there are problems in the communication, and we have now made contact with Ukraine, and the Prime Minister will now be able to be available at 4 o'clock. So we reschedule our agenda that we start at 4 o'clock with our next meeting. First, the Prime Minister of Ukraine, and then the Chair of the Committee of Ministers, and then our Secretary General. Sorry for this change in our schedule, but we have to be aware that we are talking here about a country that is under aggression and is not able to schedule everything in a smooth way immediately. So I would like you to be back here at 4 o'clock to listen to the speech of the Prime Minister of Ukraine. Until then, the session is adjourned.